And my bananas are looking really well. As you can see, nice, fat, uh, little bananas. We got that bunch, and then we got another bunch over here off this other banana tree. This one flowered a little bit behind. It's August 8th. We're out here by one of the garden spots. It's about 6:30 in the morning, and we're going to do a garden tour. We've had our sprinklers running overnight. Got some little wobble heads here. Not high output, but they do a good job and disperse the water good. I better shut these off and get to this tour. All right. We're out here at the pea and corn patch, what we're calling it now. And these peas have finally got up, and as you can see, they're blooming all over. And yeah, they're just blooming like crazy. It's looking real nice out here. We'll zoom out while we walk. We don't want to get you too dizzy. It's been really dry. No rain forecast in the next 10 days, so it's going to get drier. That's where it's important to have a sprinkler system. But these things, and those that go do the market, it looks like not this weekend, but next weekend, maybe we'll have some purple hull peas for the market. They're just really, really doing well. I'm sure there's a bunch more hidden in there that's going to be ready to pick. These are purple hulls, so they'll be easier to spot once they start turning purple. And our corn, it's not doing the best, but it's doing pretty good. It's starting to shoot up and tassel. This row here was actually laid by, and I do have an old video on laying by if you don't know what that is. And it seems to be doing a little bit better than the other rows where they were just fertilized, and we come in here and did some weeding, which it is getting some grass back, but that's not going to be a problem. It's really looking good. That in the center is kind of small, but we're not looking for a whole bunch of corn. I just wanted to grow some here, a late crop. And up here we have our zipper cream peas. Now our zipper cream peas are starting to bloom, but it's not like the others. You got to look around to spot some. But they do have little beans or peas pods forming on there, so I'm guessing these will be a couple weeks. They might come on earlier, but they do a bigger pea, so with the zipper cream, it makes it a little easier to shell too than the purple hulls. Nice tasting pea, but they're starting to bloom, and there's blooms, and it's kind of hard to see. I guess if you're watching this on a big screen, it wouldn't be bad, but there's some few blooms out there here and there. So I'm gonna say these might be about 3 weeks away. I could be wrong. We could get them in a couple of weeks. Let's go look at the other garden spot. Now we're down here at the lower garden, and it looks like just a grass patch. Now we had our corn over here. We tilled it under, and we'll talk about that later, but you can see how much grass come in here, even though this has kind of been tilled. We mowed it down. And amongst here, and I don't know how well these are going to do, this particular variety of sweet potato is a Covington. This was one that I just want seed for next year, and we're definitely not going to put them down here again. But there's a lot of sweet potatoes in here. The vines don't have much, so they're not. Chances are, because they had to compete with all the grass and we couldn't keep it under control, we're not going to have a lot of sweet potatoes. But if we get a few, we'll be happy. and especially enough so we got seed for next year. But the nut grass is so bad down here, we're just going to convert this to pasture. We're going to fence it off, get back in. I say the cattle business. We'll get a couple of calves, maybe a cow, and this will be part of their grazing area. We've got a pile up here where we've taken, and this was a lot of the trees and stuff we took out when we cleared up here a little ways, and we're going to push it out here, burn this up, and then see if we can't get this established with a good grass. And we've got a little bit more brush over here we've got to get out, and some up there. This was all clear. But we're going to go take a look up here on the way to the main garden, and we're going to look at our little wild surprise that we have. Okay, oh, aren't they so pretty? For those of you that's not familiar, these are American beauty berries. Before the internet, used to be spread around, these were poisonous. I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, but they, as you can see, they take and are in different stages. They'll start blooming. These down here, this darker color, and they come off real easy like that. These are ripe and ready to harvest. Now, you'll have some clusters like this one here that has some that's green or they're lighter colored and stuff. These aren't ready yet. When you start seeing these, and the darker they are, that's the better they are. But they grow wild here on our property and in a lot of places, if you've ever seen them. And I used to mow these down. I just spend time and brush hog them down. Now, these are, a lot of them are ready to harvest. A lot of them have still got a long ways. You can see this one here is set later. And the American Beauty Berry, I kind of compare it a lot to a elderberry. I mean, it's got a lot of the same properties, and it is a good medicinal berry. Now, they use the leaves and stuff for medicinal too, but they make a super flavorful jelly or syrup. So if you see these, and you can look up, and I got a video where we made American Beauty Berry jelly, I believe I did. And we're going to harvest some of these again this year. Now, we don't need any jelly, but what we're going to do is we're just going to freeze dry these and see how they come out, and then we'll keep them if we want to do something later. But you could make you some jelly or some syrup, and you could add the same things as you would, say, to elderberry syrup to make you a good cold weather tonic, ward off cold. But like I say, they're just all over here. This patch just come up from where I cleared out. Probably buried a few seeds. They grow real quick. If I mowed these down, they'd be this big next year. And just one of those things that you could forage for. Now let's get on to the other garden. Well, now that we're at our main garden, and we've finally, been a couple of years, we've been trying to get back to this project. We got our compost bin here. Finally got it finished. Now, we didn't do this like we've done our old one. If you've watched for a while, we used to have a 3 separate bin. Now this one here is just single. It is definitely large, about 5 by 10. So it holds a lot of compost. It's roughly about, I'd say, 3.5 feet tall, and it can hold a lot of compost. We had taken our pile that we were working it with the tractor. It works a lot better. We can keep a lot more air in it. If you watch my soil video, you'll know how important it is to have carbon dioxide in there and oxygen. So if you don't keep enough in there, what's going to happen? But anyway, what we did was put that in, and we took a big amount of ours off of the trailer here and put it on top. So most of it is ready to use. There was some green stuff. We put it on the bottom. We took our chicken litter or chicken manure that we keep from our organic chickens, and we added it in layers on there, and added lime in there in layers too. That way this ought to be really good stuff. But anyway, we're out here doing this tour now. Our chives are really doing good. We're still having to pop off a lot of these flowers. We don't want chive seeds all over, like I say. Our oregano, it's doing pretty fair. It is getting some kind of disease off in there, but hopefully it'll survive good and won't have a problem. This heat has been murder on this garden. It's been taking out plants. Of course, a lot of our things like blight come in. You know, plants get heat stressed, and we've been in the high 90s. I think maybe today we're going to be in the 100, up to 100, but it's been hot. Now our Cuban oregano, it's doing really well. Our ginger's hanging in there pretty good. Got a lot of shoots coming off. Hopefully it's forming good rhizomes. And our turmeric's doing really good. This shade cloth has made a big difference this year. It is actually, it's pushing against it, pushing it up. So it should be good. It's the same way. A lot of them are putting up a lot of shoots. So hopefully we'll have a good harvest of turmeric. Now, some of our herbs that we have, medicinal, like our marshmallow, it just can't take the heat. And we got a nice green one in here, and what this is indicated, we need to do something with this soil. But these goat weeds, they're bad about coming in like that. We need to get in here and do some cutting back again on our basil. We haven't really been harvesting any of this, but I do need to maintain it and cut it back, and once it gets cooler weather, we ought to have some pretty basil to harvest. The catnip, it's looking real rough. I would say it's probably would be good to cut this back, and of course come in here and get these few weeds that decide to come up amongst here, get them out. We definitely don't need the grass going to seed. But our herbs are doing pretty fair. Now, our squash that was in this row, of course, we've got grass coming back, and it's going to continue until we can get things managed, because we've got so many seeds that we allow to go. And we even got a fern coming up. I guess if I needed a fern, I could have planted that one. These squash down here, they're alive, but they don't look real good. Our sunchokes, they're doing good. Of course, I guess the name sun means they don't mind the heat so much. They've got so tall that they've fallen over. Maybe next year I'm going to do some T-posts and some twine and keep them supported. Now our new crop of okra here, it's doing good. Okra likes the heat. The main thing is going to be kind of keep the bugs off, and hopefully we can get caught up on some of this grass, but it's not looking like it's going to be anytime too soon. Our watermelons, this are late ones that were really put in too late, but these down here are tender sweet. They were actually, they're considerably younger than these other ones, but these others were kept in their cell tray way too long, so they're not as vigorous. Now they are starting to bloom with their male flowers, but we'll see if they can get enough time to produce a watermelon. If they don't, they're pretty to look at. We've been having to water almost daily, at least every other night. Keep things going. Our cucumbers are looking good. In fact, I need to get in here. I might actually have some on these ones up here. Now we've got a lot of empty beds. We got some there, we've got some here. We've taken out our tomato plants. Now some of our peppers are hanging in, we'll leave them, but a lot of them's going to have to come out. Our tomatoes over here they're pretty much done. We do pull a few of them off of here, but you can see we've got a whole lot of stinging going on here, so they ain't pretty. Now if we get a fairly nice one, we'll save it and eat it, but most of these we take and give to the chickens because they just love them. We've got a lot of little plants here needs to go out. We've got some some cabbage here. We've got some romaine lettuce. We've got a couple of varieties of red lettuce, some more cilantro, and some more cabbage. And then we've got some early onions, and these are about the size. I'm going to go ahead and get these out. And these were just extra plants. I need to compost them, but I just haven't got around to it. But all these tomatoes are going to have to come out in here. A lot of these peppers, now some of them are really doing good. With the heat, the production's dropped off on some. Our ghost peppers, there's a few ripe ones in there, but it's not setting any. It's starting to bloom again, so we should have a good fall crop. Now our poblanos, I always have a rough time when it gets to the heat. We've got about these first 3 plants going to come out. These next plants, I think what I'm going to do is cut them down as far as prune them back to about 1.5 feet, 2 foot, and let them come back out. We have some more. These are we've got some divas, and I believe these are poinsettias. We've got about 4 or 5 varieties out here. Yeah, those are poinsettias. Those were actually germinated on the June 10th. And they're setting little cucumbers in here. I'm going to come through and see if there was any big ones we missed, and I need to bring my vines back up to the trellis so they won't get out of hand, and they're less likely to get disease when they're up higher. We do have a volunteer shishito pepper plant here, which is producing a lot of peppers. They're not real big, but we just let it go. Our yellow scorpion peppers have been producing good. I actually tasted one of these the other day because the yellow scorpion is really a hot pepper. That first bite on the tip was nice and flavorful. I could actually taste them. They're a wonderful flavored pepper. That next bite, I got quite a bit of heat to it, so they definitely are warm. I don't know if I'm going to get any artichokes off these globe artichokes. We'll have to see. They're still going. And of course our white cap beans, they need to be pulled out. That's another cleanup job. And we need to do a summer prune on our apple tree and get these a little bit more under control. This darn Roselle hibiscus, I've turned the water off of this about 2 months ago. So this hadn't got anything but rainwater in 2 months. And you can see it does not suffer from the heat. It's well, I'm call it Jamaican sorrel. But as far as a heat loving, being it's related to the okra family, it thrives in this hot weather. And what I'm trying to do is kind of stress it. I don't know if that'll do any good, but the few years back when I got a good crop, of course it's light day length sensitive, so it doesn't start flying until the days get shorter. But this stuff is just come in here. It's going to be a pain to harvest because the wind comes through, it breaks the limbs down. As you can see down in here, the limb has actually been broke loose, but it's still growing. It's getting its nutrients from what part's still attached. And it's kind of that way. It would have been better if I had come through here and put T-posts, but just didn't get to that, and I didn't think it was going to have a problem. But when we got that tropical storm come through, it really messed it up. The blueberries, they don't like this heat. They're hanging in there, but they definitely aren't growing that well. We got something coming in here that definitely, I don't know what that is. I better make sure before I pull it up, but sometimes weeds get out of control. Our rosemary is loving this area up here. It's good and dry, so it doesn't have the problem like it did with the past 2 years about getting too much water. This is at the end of a long drip line, roughly about 100-foot line, so it gets water, but it doesn't get very much, and it seems to do a whole lot better. Now the okra, definitely we got to get out here and cut okra today. These few down here, which they get early evening shade, they're doing really well. This is the walkway between my Roselle. It's definitely going to be a chore harvesting calyxes when we do. Now you can see the rest of this row of okra, it just couldn't take the heat. And sometimes that's what happens. Now my tobacco is getting a lot of, the leaves are starting to yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and harvest this. I cut off most of these seed heads, collected me way more seeds than I'll ever have to have next year. But trying to keep a lot of them from getting in the ground and germinating, and then I've got that many more weeds to deal with. Right in here was where our dill was, and we had some that was coming up on its own, but because it wasn't getting watered on top, it couldn't get its roots down. Now this one here, whenever it took and came up, we were having a little bit of rain, so it came on, but a lot of them that were just barely germinated, they didn't get the roots down. And so we're going to have to plant us a cell tray of dill, take care of that. This was our 42-day tomato. It puts on a lot of tomatoes, and it's pretty much done, but all of them are maybe double that size, so they're not really something that I'd really want to plant in the future. I can use cherry tomatoes just as well. In fact, I've got some large cherry tomato variety. The little greenhouse doesn't have anything in it. Our plans are, and we haven't got around to it, it's always a lot of things going on, and we'll talk about some of those later in another video. But the plans are to take these cell tray racks out and put them in the big greenhouse. That way we'll have this completely empty because we don't need them here, but we can get our plants or little seedlings off the ground in the big greenhouse. A lot of times we end up with a lot of centipedes or millipedes. I don't know which one, but they just start attacking the roots of it. Now our asparagus, you can see it's trying to die back. It doesn't like the heat, and of course it'll be back next year. A lot of our thyme is not looking real good, and hopefully it'll overcome and stay in here. I'm sure we'll have some that survives, but and we did harvest enough, so we don't have a problem with that. But it's just, this heat is just tough on it. I know I keep saying that word heat a whole lot. And my bananas are looking really well. As you can see, nice, fat, little bananas. We got that bunch, and then we got another bunch over here off this other banana tree. This one flowered a little bit behind. Now these bananas will keep blooming and blooming and blooming, and we'll come over here a little bit closer. And they keep setting little bananas and flowering, but they don't hold them. You can see each one of those little sections up there, it had done this. It opens up another petal off that flower with some fruit there, but they don't pollinate. Even though we've got, now see, we've got red wasps like to come in here and mess with them, but they won't hold, they'll fall off. So what we'll end up doing, we're going to cut this flower off. It's not going to hurt the bunch. In fact, maybe it'll make it ripen a little bit earlier, and we can take a little bit of energy that's going towards flowering and put it back to ripening the fruit. But it's looking good. We've got we've left one pup on each of these trees here. So, and we've taken the rest of the pups off. If you had rich enough soil, you could probably leave them all, but way we do, and it's the same thing here with this one, left one. We're planning to move our bananas, but we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, so we're going to make sure we've got these going for next year. Now, for those of you that don't know, and we'll talk more about it when we harvest our bunch, but bananas trees only produce one crop, and then they're done. So once these banana trees ripen their fruit, which we'll take and cut the mother plant out, and then everything will be left to the pup that's grown up there. And we do have some banana trees, and maybe we might take these for the market one more time. They're getting kind of tall to transport in my Yukon, so maybe one more time, and then we'll go from there. Now we do have some other bananas over here, some pups, and these are rooting in. These are going to be some that's going in the other greenhouse, and we have some babies. These ones will probably go to the market, kind of like this one right here and stuff. But the citrus is doing pretty well. We also have, this is some blues cabbage right here. It's having a tough time with the heat. I don't think it'll bolt into seed. It's not good about that, but hopefully it won't get stressed enough that aphids or something comes in. And then we have some Mitchahili. Now I like Mitchahili, and it is a lot of people at the market like it. But with this heat, it's possibly going to bolt and go to seed, and that's not a problem. When they do that, the chickens just love these, so we'll give them to the chicks. Over here we have some more squash. Now this squash is I believe it's prolific squash, so it's a straight squash. We have had some losses in here, which is not uncommon. We have cilantro here. Hopefully I'll get some fish emulsion on these today, get them to really going, and I'll probably go ahead and put some on the rest of these crops in here. We've got this one volunteer cucumber. I've got probably about a half a dozen cucumbers off it. It's got another one. Hopefully it'll form, but it really gets stressed out when it gets warm in the day. So it doesn't produce very big cucumbers. It's volunteer, but it's the only one that's giving me cucumbers now. This is our bok choy. Now, bok choy doesn't like the heat. You can see we're dropping plants here pretty good, even though we water morning and evening, and then we use the drip occasionally too to boost the amount of water. They just can't take the heat. A lot of times it'll get real hot, and they'll just lay out on the ground. Once they lay out on the ground, that's what happens next. We still got a few sunflowers coming out on this one, but we've taken out most of the sunflowers. We didn't plant a second crop. We've got gobs of habanadas, and habanada, people hear that and they don't get the nata part of it, but they're a fruity pepper. They say tastes like a habanero, but there's no heat to them, and they're doing good. Our Greek peperoncini, now you can see these cages. Of course, I don't keep them all run inside, but you can see they'll keep these peppers upright. These two didn't have cages. They were young, and I never come back and put some on, or I might have run out. But you can see how they lay down. You got more problems with different disease and stuff coming onto the peppers that's on the ground like that. Over here, this is our hatch green chilies. I cut all these back low. They definitely were stressed, and what I'm trying to do is see if that makes a difference instead of taking them out, see if they'll come back this fall. We have one plant that is really doing better than the others. And a lot of times if you're going to do seed saving and you have a plant that's got characteristics that handle something better, that's kind of high grading your seed. You would save it from that plant because you're more likely that it's going to be a little bit stronger immune system. Now our eggplants, it's very few of these that get even this big. This variety doesn't get too much bigger than this, but a lot of them, when they're little bitty, they just start turning yellow. So and it's from the heat. Everything's smaller right now as far as pepper size, stuff like that, because the heat is so bad out here. Now we have more okra here, and we have more okra there. It's hanging in there good. Our peppers, these here, and some of these were pretty rough their whole time, but these are jalapenos, and they're definitely getting stressed. This variety, this is Ozark Giant bell pepper. It isn't doing as well as the Emerald Giant. It tends to, well, you can see the color of these are really rough. Now we still are getting some cherry tomatoes off our Sun Gold. A lot of them though are either stung up or they're split. So when we harvest, we may be getting half of what's on there that's good, but I don't know that we're going to bring any to the market. Again, it seems like they're just not the quality that we like to take. We still need to take out our row here where our French beans were. What we'll probably end up doing, clean this up and put us some English peas in here maybe next month. We've got a lot of these tomatoes are gone. As you can see, that was tomatoes where this okra is. We've left these poles up because if the okra starts doing good, we can tie these up and keep them in good shape. Now these are the Emerald Giants, and you can see these actually get a little more sun in the morning. So it's not the amount of sun. These just tend to do better. Now they're blooming like crazy, but because of the heat, the peppers are small. Most of them are harvested about this size, and normally, of course, they'd be about 5, 6, 7 times as big. And our victory garden up here. We have some issues in here. You can see some of our squash plants are dying. This batch of beans aren't doing too well. It would probably be a good idea for me to put another row of green beans in, and they should do better. Even though it's real hot right now, if I get them germinated up, it should turn off and get cooler. These squash up here are a patty pan type. It's sunburst, and they're putting out both their male and female flowers. So won't be long. We should be seeing some fruit on these. Hopefully the heat won't do them all in. But anyway, that's where we're sitting in the garden, April 7th. I hope you enjoyed this tour. If you'd like to see more content on growing or preserving self-sufficiency, well, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, select all, and of course, give it a big thumbs up and share this video. Enjoy that gardening experience.